event is Women 2.0, and when I heard about it, I felt that the moniker was probably a bit misplaced for women anyway, because for new things and young things like the web 1.0 and 2.0 might make sense, but for women who have had to reinvent themselves since ages, and certainly I'm sure even women in this room have had to reinvent themselves in their own lifetime as daughters, wives, mothers, friends, and many other roles that encompass who we are. We are not a 2.0. We may be a 10.0 or whatever you want to use, but certainly not a 2.0. That was my first thought coming into this women's event. But anyway, just to kind of understand your backgrounds, how many of you are from an engineering background? Can you do show of hands? Almost all of you. How many of you with sales background? Some. Marketing? Few. Finance? Almost no one that I can see. Then also, in terms of what you aspire to be, how many of you think you want to be someday CEO of a company? Okay, that's very encouraging. How many of you think that your career goal you would consider successful if you were, let's say, a vice president? Okay, a manager? Boy, everyone wants to be a CEO here, and that's certainly a very, very notable thing, because I want to talk later on about choices that we make and what it takes to achieve those goals. Maybe the last thing I want to ask you here to get a representation, maybe a moot point, considering the career ambition and goals that all of you have. But let me ask anyway. How many of you think of working as one? How many of you work because you think financially it's important for you? How many of you work because you think it's important for you to work to feed your good representation? The conflict for women to work is, I think, very age-old. To work or not to work is a constant topic of conversation in almost any women's gathering. And how much to work, when to work, is a perennial topic. And so is glass ceiling and work-life balance. These are kind of the constants that I find in any women gathering, Glass ceiling and how do you find work-life balance. So let's address those up front. And equally, stereotyping of women is global, and I'm sure if we went around, we will all have some anecdote where, as a working woman, you had some stereotype that you faced, and two come to my mind immediately. I could probably think of 20, but two come to my mind. One that happened recently in India, and one in US when I was many years younger. I remember I started running my own company when I was about 30 years old, and our CTO on that day had to urgently leave home because his son had to be taken to the hospital or something, and he had someone that was coming to interview. So I said, and he didn't have time to inform him, I said, so you leave, I'll interview him. So this gentleman walked in, and we were a startup at that time, so we had maybe 4 or 5 rooms in our office, so we were fairly small as the size of a company. So when this person came in, I said, please come in, and took him to the conference room and sat down to chat with him. And he said, I would rather, so he asked me where Raja was our CTO, and I said, no, he had to go home. And he immediately said to me, well, I can come back another day when your husband is available in the office. So there is the automatic assumptions that we make about working women and their success and how that relates to their own individual effort. And and there are countless examples like this. Actually, White House had invited a group of technology CEOs to talk about, this was during the Bill Clinton's administration, to talk about how the government could be more supportive of technology initiatives. And there was people like Andy Grove and other key business leaders. And there was only one woman CEO, Carol Bartz. And then as they all sat around the round table to have this very important discussion, and she was seated at the round table, somebody came and told her, admins need to not sit at this table, they need to go sit over there, and she was CEO of Autodesk, right? So you take this with a little bit of humor, because if you get yourself too worked up about stereotypes, then I think you would be wasting your energy in the wrong channel. But why I was talking about stereotypes is I often see young women getting very worked up about this, and then my question is, what is a woman's crusade anyway? What is it that you want to achieve in this world? Because we have limited time and we have limited energy, and we have to channel that into what we think is the most important priority for us. And, is it to get rightful recognition? Is it to have some parity and equality? Is it to be recognized for the superhuman multitasking that every woman does? And so on and so forth, right? We could have a long list. But I think what should be crusade of a woman has to be individual, but as a whole body of working women, I believe in two things. This is my personal belief on what ought to be a women's crusade. First one, which is probably not relevant to this gathering at least, maybe relevant to the audience but not relevant to this event, that is close to my heart, is increasing violence against women. This bothers me a lot, and I believe, and we won't make it a focus of our conversation today, but suffice it to say that I believe that the only way that cycle will change is when there is solidarity among women to solve for the problem collectively, rather than look for external measures and external protections through which they expect to have safety in their homes, safety in their workplaces, safety on the streets.